Hi, it's Christine. In this video, we're going to talk about how you can save and spend. Hey, it's Credit Christy. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode. Sometimes I hear people say they can only save or they can only spend, and it doesn't have to be an or, one or the other. It can be an and. You can save and you can spend. So there's a couple of tips I wanted to share with you, and it starts with our mindset about money, right? So to spend is now, and it's impulsive. And to save means there's planning involved, and it's also wise. We know that that's what we're supposed to do, is save and plan for our future. But there's two parts. There's this little battle going on inside of our mind, and psychology has shown that there's a doer and there's a planner. And usually the doer takes over and kind of overrides the planner. So what do I mean by this? We could talk about money, we can talk about weight loss or being healthy. Any of those examples will help me make this point. We know what it takes to lose weight, and yet we do something very different. We know what it takes to save and to have a retirement account, and yet we do something different. So the planner in us is preparing for something in the future. Okay, I'm going to start making my retirement account. I'm going to put $200 a month towards my employer match 401k, and I'm going to start it soon. I'm going to start it next month. And what happens is, even though that planning has kind of started in that phase, there's not an indefinite start. There's not an actual locked in commitment. And then so the impulsive or the now typically tends to take over. Okay, well, I was going to start that $200 towards that retirement account, except I have to get 2 new tires on my car. So after I do that, and then there's another thing and another thing and another thing that will constantly come and eat up that $200, right? Our willpower, there's only a certain amount available to us at any given time. And it turns out, and it's proven, that our willpower has to actually be replenished. Willpower also at the end of the day is decreased as opposed to at the start of the day. So we've got to take on that one next big thing that we're wanting to accomplish. Proven earlier in the day, our willpower is stronger. Okay, so what happens when we've got these really great intentions with our planner mode, and then our doer mode takes over? How do we get into that place where I'm spending a little bit less and saving a little bit more? We've got to acknowledge the fact that if it's immediate, it's sooner, and it's a shorter time period to have that like instant gratification, right? Where if we're planning something into the future, we actually discount what a future event might mean. And we put more weight into today. It's because today is the only day we can actually really even count on. In the present, I know I'm here. You know, I can pinch myself and I know I'm here. But if I'm thinking 10 years off, you know, it's so distant. It's something way off in the distance that it doesn't almost feel like it's part of my reality. So it's easy to just continue to put that off. Those gains seem longer, right? They're longer set, later goals, and we wind up putting less effort or less weight into its importance. So what we're really doing is allowing our immediate to take over and discount what's required for living later, and giving it less emphasis. And it's just human nature. It's our psychology. It's the way that we are wired. But we've got to have some mechanisms in there in place to help us get to that state of saving. So here we go. One thing I want you to be aware of is how you pay matters. Okay, when you pay cash, it's more memorable, and it actually hurts a little bit because it's coming out of your allotted amount of money towards something. So it's just proven, and there's mechanisms in place that show that when it hurts a little bit, when it's painful, you'll maybe think twice about making that purchase. Is it an impulse? It is just a want, or is it something that you have to have? So there's this something called a transparency system, from going from paying from cash to paying for something by a check or a debit card. where it takes a little bit less, right, out of your inner workings to pay for something. And then when you pay by a credit card, it's actually really convenient and it's easy, and we tend to not really remember those purchases once it's made, and then we'll figure out that credit card bill later. And then auto pay actually has it as the most convenient possible, and then so it's one of those things we just don't think about because it's kind of set it and forget it and it's already there. So a lot of people will have auto pay for like their utilities, because you're paying your electric bill every single month. Auto payments, mortgage or rent, those kinds of things are just set, and it just comes out. So we've usually already allocated for those expenses. But when it comes to those variables in our life, right? When you go to the grocery store, if you go, okay, I've only got this $100 to spend for groceries in this visit, you're going to be a lot more cautious about what's going into that grocery cart, right? As opposed to being able to just swipe it on your credit card. So the way that you pay matters. Also, something that was really interesting to me, and you may have already learned this before, I hadn't. I was taking this class on behavioral economics, and one of my big takeaways was that our sources of income, it makes a difference on how we view that money and how we spend it. So let me give you an example. You make a salary of $45,000 a year. So you typically would have that $45,000 allocated, hopefully through a written budget, but you know where that money is going to, right? It's going to your housing, it's going to your auto, it's going to your insurance, it's going to food, it's going to your cell phone. But what about if you were to get a bonus? So let's say your boss surprises you next month and says, hey, Christy, you got an extra $2,500 coming at you. Whoa, what does your mind automatically say about that $2,500 bonus? I know where it went. You just spent it on something incredibly fun. There's probably something that you've been eyeing that you want to purchase, or a place that you want to go to, or some splurge that you want to do for yourself or somebody you care about. So usually when a money is a bonus income, or if it's gifted, it's spent very differently than when it's earned income. So what if you put yourself on a savings plan before you even got paid? So let's go back to that $45,000 annual income. What if you set it up where before your income hits your checking account, you have a separate savings account set up over here with as little as 5% of your take-home pay. Maybe then you can gradually go to 10%, and then ultimately 20% of your take-home pay is where you want to be for your savings, so that you can put that towards really amazing things, whatever that looks like for you, towards your retirement account, towards a vacation fund, towards your kids' college, towards paying off your debt, towards having an emergency fund equivalent to a year worth of take-home pay. Wouldn't that be an amazing feeling to have those things? So start off, here's my challenge to you, with at least 5% going into a separate savings account that you've just said, I'm not going to touch it. I'm not going to touch it. I'm going to let that baby grow. And then you're going to learn to live off of your take home of 95%. So figure out a way. You might have to cut something, right? You might have to make coffee at home rather than going through a drive-through. You might have to pack your lunch rather than going out with the gang, every day when you go to work. Something along those lines, right? You can make a little tweak or a little adjustment to help make that happen. And then when you get that bonus, when you get that overtime, when you get a gift of some kind of cash, when you have a scratch off that all of a sudden just won $100, let that be the splurge. Let it be more of an occasional blessing rather than just a normal entitlement. Oh, I'm just going to go out and get this thing because I want it. It's an instant want, so I'm going to go fill that want. If we got into a place where we were steadily saving, and it just started with that little 5%, and then we gradually get up to that 10%, and then that extra money is your splurge money, your play money. Think about how more rewarding that splurge would feel when it's the occasional treat rather than the norm. This is how some people wake up one day and they're 50 pounds heavier than they were the last time they really paid attention. They're like, how did that happen? It's because we allow the splurges to become our normal. So we always have that 9 o'clock snack, or we always have that, fill in the blank that all of a sudden has put weight on our bodies, and it's because it becomes the norm. And that's what happens a lot with our splurge spending. So we've got spending, it falls really into two different categories. The things that help us get through life, right? Our transportation, our housing, our food, those kinds of things. And then we have the splurges. So I'm encouraging you to try to make your splurges come out of that extra, that bonus, that gift money, that overtime, that side hustle that you did, and see what happens to your savings. And then acknowledge or pay attention to how different that splurge feels when it's not the norm, that we've spoiled ourselves to death every single week, and it's a treat maybe once a month. You might really appreciate that splurge a whole lot more, and it becomes a little bit more meaningful. I hope this brings you value. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you haven't already, please subscribe. And if you are looking for content or details on when it applies directly to credit, I encourage you to go to my podcast, and it's called Credit Coaching by Christy. I've got some very specific information in there, how you can improve your credit score and maximize your cash flow. Thanks for watching. Until next time, my friends.